Stavakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Stavakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avadara Varishthaya Ramakrishna Te Namah Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us bow down to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the God Supreme Incarnate. Let us pray to Him to remove all our ignorance, to lead us from unreal to the real, to lead us from death to immortality. We are reading Gospel, chapter 25. Sri Ramakrishna said to Pandit Shashadhar, the way to realize God is through discrimination, renunciation, and yearning for Him. All these three are very essential if you really want to realize God in this very life. You have to prepare yourself properly to get the desired result. So, the question of discrimination comes when you want to know why you are suffering. What is the way to get out of this unpleasant, painful suffering? In order to find out the answer, that suffering is caused because of attachment. Attachment is at the root of all troubles. Again, attachment is due to ignorance. Yoga Vasishta, a great scripture, teaches that whatever you consider me and mine, to that you are going to be attached. Once your mind is set on attachment, then you are bound to get pain and pleasure. Why should the self feels the pain of the body? Because it thinks itself to be the body. It is so identified with the body. Anything happens to the body, immediately the soul feels intensely pained. People become sensitive so much they can't bear. For all petty things, they become irritated, get agitated. The whole mind is shaken to the roots and they are left out of balance. They become mad with the poison of anger. So, if a person is really aspiring for the realization of the truth, he must certainly follow the process of discrimination. What Lord Krishna says in the Gita, Buddhi Yoga. You have to sharpen your intellect to such an extent. You must be able to discriminate very thoroughly, courageously, and take necessary steps. Then you will see how you can free yourself from the pain of the body when you are not identifying yourself totally to the body. So attachment, therefore, is rooted in the association of the idea of I-ness or minus with an object. Lord Krishna very clearly teaches in the Gita how attachment leads a person step by step to bondage and ultimately to destruction. The Lord says, when a man dwells on objects, he feels an attachment for them. Attachment gives rise to desire, and desire breeds anger. From anger comes delusion. From delusion, the failure of memory. Smriti Bhramsha. In Sanskrit it is called Smriti Bhramsha, loss of memory. You get confused, you behave erratically. That means you lose all power of discrimination. And from the ruin of discrimination, a person perishes. So how dangerous it is if you don't have proper discrimination in your life. Life will be full of thorns if you don't cultivate proper discrimination. In Sanskrit version, what I just now said, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Upajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Sammoha Smriti Vibhramaha Smriti Bhramshat Buddhinasho Buddhinashat Pranashyati. So, you should understand very clearly When attachment ripens, its destructiveness becomes quite obvious. But in its origin, it is only a thought wave arising in the mind almost imperceptibly. Therefore, thought control is the most important thing in the practice of detachment. How you organize your mind properly. How you set your mind. You have to be very careful in setting the mind on good thoughts. Otherwise, it slips down to very unpleasant thoughts, unpleasant reactions in the form of anger, jealousy, hatred, bringing immense suffering. So there are two ways to counteract this, to get over this dreadful effect of attachment. As soon as we are born in this world, we become attached to this world. So how to overcome? One way is the way of divine love, cherishing divine love. The other way is the way of divine discrimination, which Sri Ramakrishna pointed out. If you are aspiring for the realization of the truth, you must have discrimination. You must have renunciation. You must have earnestness. All the three are equally important. In the way of divine love, you are required to divinize your emotions, your attachments. That is to say, to transfer your attachment from the things of the world to God. The more your attachment for God and things godly, the less will be your attachment for the world and the things worldly. In the way of discrimination, we are required to take the position of the witness in regard to the goings on in the world and also in our body and mind. The actions of gunas on gunas, as the Gita says, guna guneshu vartanta iti. It's all the interaction, interplay of the gunas that are causing all these problems to us. So, the way of practicing detachment is that of discrimination. The keynote of this method is to remain inwardly free in every place, action, occupation, or relation. That means you must always remain the rulers of your actions and not their slaves. Because you are the children of immortality. Ordinarily, what we see in working, we get worked upon. In possessing things, we become possessed by them. In loving, we become swallowed. We start drinking, then we become drunk. In occupation, we are seldom without preoccupation. In giving, we are fettered by expectation of thanks. Oh, that guy was so discourteous. He didn't even express thanks. He becomes annoyed simply because he didn't get expression of thanks from the guy who got things from him. So, in order to be free from bondage, you have to be the witness. In Sanskrit we call Sakshi. Sakshi Bhav. Swami Vivekananda said, he was overwhelmed by the power of the Atman. Every now and then he would tell, you are the source of strength. You are strength itself. But you have become weak on account of ignorance, on account of delusion, on account of your attaching towards unreal things. So he said, nothing has power over the self of man until the self becomes a fool and loses independence. So by non-attachment, you overcome and deny the power of anything to act upon you. When the seer becomes identified with the instrument of seeing, then comes the loss of independence. According to Vedanta, all the goings on in the world, including what is happening to our bodies and minds, are the interplay of the non-self on non-self, of guna and guna. It's a fight between the gunas. And we are caught in that fight. We are just churned in the fight between the gunas. The self or the Atman is the witness of these goings on, being totally unconnected to them. When through ignorance we get identified with them, there arise bondage and attachment. Once the bondage comes, where is freedom? So, when through the practice of constant discrimination between the self and non-self, we succeed in taking the position of the witness, which we really are, perceiving but unattached, then we cut all attachment at the roots. You have to uproot all the tendencies leading to attachment. You have to have regular discipline to fight on these things. It's a constant fight. Then only you'll be able to get over the weakness of attachment. You'll be ever shining by the glory of non-attachment. You'll be full of energy, full of power, and you enjoy peace and independence fully. So, we have to acquire proper discrimination. Buddhi Yoga. We have to adhere to Buddhi Yoga. Immediately we must sort it out. Remove the causes of restlessness. Remove the causes that agitate you. Take all steps so that you can maintain your tranquility. Only when you are able to maintain certain amount of balance, then only you will be able to offer your devotional practices. Then only you will be able to think God properly. Then you will understand the meaning of peace and so on. So, preparation takes a lot of time, preparing the mind properly so that you can meditate well. Even repeating the divine name, you can do it zealously only when you are set totally on that. Your whole mind is tend towards repeating the divine name of God. It's full of love. Then it's possible to get over the terrible disease of attachment. Then, of course, as Sri Ramakrishna tells, don't desire anything that distracts you away from God. Anything that distracts you away from God, reject them. Reject it. That is renunciation. So, religious practice is practice in your inner life. How you practice, how is your inner being? That's important. Outwardly you may look very beautiful, good, well dressed, but inside full of filth of jealousy, hatred, anger, all such things. That will not work. So, inner body must be clean, spotless. Then you will really appreciate and you will enjoy immensely the glory of God. Only you have to cleanse your mind. So Sri Ramakrishna tells, clean up the mind. Every day you must clean the mind. Keep the mind clean all the time. Be watchful about what you are thinking, what you are doing. Then it becomes possible. Then with steadiness, if you keep on practicing, you will realize God in this very life. Pandit Shashidhar heard Sri Ramakrishna saying these things. His whole mind was fully attentive. It was focused on Sri Ramakrishna. He was as if meditating on Sri Ramakrishna. He could understand and feel what Sri Ramakrishna telling him, because himself was a great scholar. He immediately understood the great significance of what Sri Ramakrishna was teaching. So let us try to practice. Be humble, surrender to God, keep on practicing. Then you will certainly have very good result. Page 485. Page 486. Sri Ramakrishna, all sat in silence. Sri Ramakrishna said to the Pandit, "Go and visit the temples and take a stroll in the garden." It was about 5:30 in the afternoon. The Pandit left the room with his friends and several of the devotees. After a while, the master went with M toward the bathing ghat on the Ganges. He said to M, "Babu Ram now says, 'What shall I gain by study?'" On the bank of the river, he met the Pandit and said to him, "Aren't you going to the Kali temple?" The Pandit said, "Yes, sir, let us go together." With a smiling face, Sri Ramakrishna proceeded to the temple through the courtyard. He said to the Pandit, "Listen to a song." He sang, "Is Kali, my mother, really black? The naked one of blackest hue lights the lotus of the heart." As he was going through the courtyard, he quoted to the Pandit from a song, "Lighting the lamp of knowledge in the chamber of your heart. Behold the face of the mother, Brahman's embodiment." They came to the temple. Sri Ramakrishna saluted the Divine Mother, touching the ground with his forehead. Red hibiscus flowers and bilva leaves adorned Mother's feet. Her three eyes radiated love for her devotees. Two of her hands were raised as if to give them boons and reassurance. The other two hands held symbols of death. She was clothed in a sari of Benares silk and was decked with ornaments. Referring to the image, one of the party remarked, "I heard it was made by the sculptor Nabin." The master answered, "Yes, I know, but to me, she is the embodiment of spirit." As Sri Ramakrishna was coming back to his room with the devotees, he said to Babu Ram, "Come with us." M also joined them. It was dusk. The master was sitting on the semicircular porch west of his door. Babu Ram and M sat near him. He was in a mood of partial ecstasy. Rakal was not then living with Sri Ramakrishna, and therefore the master was having difficulties about his personal service. Several devotees lived with him, but he could not bear the touch of every one during his spiritual moods. He hinted to Babu Ram, "Do stay with me. It will be very nice. In this mood I can't allow others to touch me." The Pandit entered the master's room after visiting the temples. The master said to him from the porch, "Take some refreshments." The Pandit said that he had not yet performed his evening devotions. At once Sri Ramakrishna stood up and sang in an exalted mood, "Why should I go to Ganga or Gaya, to Kashi, Kanchi or Prabhas, so long as I can breathe my last with Kali's name upon my lips? What need of rituals has a man? What need of devotions any more if he repeats the mother's name at the 3 holy hours?" Intoxicated with ecstatic love, the master said, "How long should one perform devotions? So long as one's mind doesn't merge in God while repeating Om." Pandit said, "Then let me eat the refreshments. I shall perform the devotions later on." Master said, "No, I don't want to obstruct the current of your life. It is not good to renounce anything before the proper time arrives. When the fruit ripens, the flower drops off of itself. One should not forcibly tear off the green branch of a coconut tree. that induced the tree. Surendra was about to leave. He invited his friends into his carriage. The master, still in an ecstatic mood, said, "Don't take more people than your horse can draw." Surendra took leave of Sri Ramakrishna. The Pandit left the room to perform his worship. M and Baburam saluted the master. They were about to leave for Calcutta. Sri Ramakrishna was still in an ecstatic mood. Master said to M, "I can't utter a word now. Stay a few minutes." M again took his seat and waited for the master's command. Sri Ramakrishna motioned to Babu Ram to take a seat and asked him to fan him a little. M also took part in rendering this personal service to the master. Master to M, tenderly, he said, "Why don't you come here so frequently now?" M said, "Not for any special reason. I have been rather busy at home." Master, "Yesterday I came to know Baburam's inner nature. That's why I have been trying so hard to persuade him to live with me. The mother bird hatches the egg in proper time. Boys like Baburam are pure in heart. They have not yet fallen into the clutches of lust and gold. Is not that so? Isn't that so?" M said, "It is true, sir. They are still stainless." Master, "They are like a new pot. Milk kept in it will not turn sour." M, "Yes, sir." Master said, "I need Baburam here. I pass through certain spiritual states when I need someone like him. He says he must not all at once live with me permanently, for it will create difficulties. His relatives will make trouble. I am asking him to come here Saturdays and Sundays." The Pandit entered the room with his friends. He had finished his devotions and was ready to eat the refreshments. One of his companions asked the master, "Shall we succeed in spiritual life? Please tell us what our way is." Master said, "You all have the yearning for liberation. If an aspirant has yearning, that's enough for him to realize God. Don't eat any food of the Shraddha ceremony, offering of food and drink to deceased relatives, especially ancestors. Live in the world like an unchaste woman. She performs her household duties with great attention, but her mind dwells day and night on her parama. Perform your duties in the world, but keep your mind always fixed on God." The Pandit finished eating his refreshments. Master said to the Pandit, "You have read the Gita, no doubt. It says that there is a special power of God in the man who is honored and respected by all." The Pandit quoted the verse from the Gita. Master said, "You surely possess divine power." Pandit said, "Shall I labor with perseverance to finish the task that I have accepted?" Sri Ramakrishna forced himself, as it were, to say, "Yes." He soon changed the conversation. Master said, "One cannot but admit the manifestation of power. Vidyasagar once asked me, 'Has God given more power to some than to others?' I said to him, 'Certainly. Otherwise, how can one man kill 100? If there is no special manifestation of power, then why is Queen Victoria so much honored and respected? Don't you admit it?" He agreed with me. The Pandit and his friends saluted the master and were about to take their leave. Sri Ramakrishna said to the Pandit, "Come again. One hemp smoker rejoices in the company of another hemp smoker. They even embrace each other, but they hide at the sight of the people, not of their own kind. A cow licks the body of her calf, but she threatens a strange cow with her horns." The Pandit left the room. With a smile, the master said, "He has become deluded even in one day. Did you notice how modest he was? And he accepted everything I said." Moonlight flooded the semicircular porch. The Sri Ramakrishna was still seated there. M was about to leave. Master said tenderly, "Must you go now? M said, "Yes, sir, let me say goodbye." Master said, "I have been thinking of visiting the houses of the devotees. I want to visit yours also. What do you say?" M said, "That will be very fine." We shall stop here. Any questions? Gunas, they are the exact translation is difficult to give in English. The gunas are translated as qualities. A person who is overpowered by anger. Anger is one of the gunas, qualities. Jealousy, hatred, friendship, love, all these things are the functions of the gunas. And the gunas are broadly classified as sattvika, rajasika and tamasic. Then again, all these Sanskrit terms are very difficult to translate into English. They will not give the exact meaning. One set of qualities or virtues make the mind purer and purer, make it more transparent, making it possible to come towards the truth. The Rajasic means cultivating all these qualities aggressively. That means doing with more zeal. And Tamasic, a person who is under the influence of tamas, is more or less lazy. He loves to sleep more, not to work, but to sleep. Dull in understanding things or in trying to practice. He is not very enthusiastic or spirited. So like that, this sattva, rajas and tamas, these three, they can be applied to all our activities. So the results are acquired accordingly. See, the gunas you cultivate through your actions, through your thinking. Suppose you are associated with bad company, you develop bad qualities and they create bad impressions in the mind. So they'll be waiting to give some trouble to you later on. Like that. Suppose you are associated with good people, good thoughts. So they will give you peace of mind and you will be happy to be more associated with good people. You will cultivate good qualities like love, compassion, friendliness. These also settle in the mind in the form of impressions to help you later on. So everything is in yourself. We are all under the net of the gunas. We have to go beyond the gunas. We have to transcend these gunas. All these gunas stay in the realm of the mind. When you transcend the mind, when you go beyond the mind, then you are going beyond the realm of the gunas. That is, when you come very close to God, then it means you are transcending all these gunas. You are not bothered about all these pulls anymore. You are just fully satisfied by the vision of God and you don't desire anything. That means mind stops functioning anymore and you don't require mind anymore. Why do I want mind? What I want, I'm having it now all the time. I am full. I am in bliss. That is complete. No more coming down. That is the state of ordinary beings rising to the level of God. But then there are some who, after realization of God, they come back with the mind, with the refined mind, out of infinite love and compassion towards the creation. They just come to help the human beings, just to help us all. They just love to help. Nishkama prema. No selfishness. Love in the purest form we can find in the holy people. Their love is love for love's sake. So they set the ideal for us so that we can follow and practice and make our life fulfilled. Any more? Mr. Bhatia?
Maharaj, you started giving one reason about the attachment is the cause of all problems, and you mentioned about Sri Lord Krishna that attachment leads to anger, anger leads to delusion, delusion leads to loss of memory leads to loss of intellect, and when a person loses intellect, he perishes, he misses his main goal of life. These also Lord Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, which just you were pointing about the gunas, that all actions are motivated by the force of nature. Only the egocentric person feels that he is the doer. When attachment is one cause, Maharaji, of evil, and then on the other hand we say that it is the nature which forces us to or motivates us to do all those things which seem to be beyond the control of human beings, then how these two contradictory things explain the same situation? On one hand we say attachment is the cause of problems. On the other hand, Sri Krishna says that all actions are motivated by the force of nature and we simply are instrument that we do it. Could you explain this anomaly or this difference, attachment versus the force of nature, Maharaj?
Yeah. Because attachment comes because of our identification with the mind and its reactions. So attachment should make us learn the value of non-attachment. It is true, we are all under the control of the nature. That's why we are suffering. If you have to overcome suffering, you have to go beyond the nature, beyond the control of nature. Mahamaya duratyaya. Bhagavan says, my maya, my prakriti is difficult to cross over. But he who surrenders to me, he who takes refuge in me, in the darkness of ignorance, the immediate thing to be done is bring the light of knowledge. That's all. So instead of probing why did we slip into this state of ignorance, it is wise to take two steps which take us out of this ignorance. So attachment and nature is playing upon us to teach us a lesson that if you want to have real peace or joy, you must go beyond this nature. So, as long as we are attached to this mind, we are in some way or other under the control of the nature, but then we can protect ourselves, prevent many things, many unpleasant things that might happen by taking certain remedial steps. Suppose there is terrible winter, it is too cold. If you just expose yourself to that nature, oh, it is too cold, what can be done? I am part and parcel of the nature. If you take that stand, you will have to die. You will freeze and you will die in any moment. On the other hand, take some protective steps. Wear warm clothes, sit near the fire, keep yourself warm, etc. Then even though the nature is acting upon you, you are not touched by the effects of that nature. In the same way, if you hold on to God, if you attach yourself to God instead of attaching yourself to the world, then the attachment loses its bad effect, and in a way it helps you to go near God, and it helps you to cross over the world. So that's what the way of love, one of the methods prescribed, tells: direct all your emotions, all your attachments to God and things godly. That's the way to get out of the bad effects of the attachment. Like that, we have to fight. It's a fight actually. Whether you have strength or no strength, you have to fight. Fighting is a must. Mithilesh, any comments? You can take that.
Can I comment on Dr. Bhatia's question, Swamiji?
Mm.
Okay. The way I look at it, in Gita, Sri Krishna, he always addresses to two different people with, in two different states of mind. One who are bound and one who are free. So when he says that nature is acting, on its own, that perception is only of that person who is beyond gunas. One who is bound by guna cannot have that perception that everything is happening in the nature itself. So the attachment part, that is, they are not anomaly, they are two different states. Though it is true that in absolute terms, nature is the only doer, yet practically everybody else or all of us think that we are the doer. So this is the initial point, and that is the ultimate point. And Krishna reminds Arjuna of both. What is the starting point and what is the culmination? So, and he constantly reminds him, not only that, he says, Nigraha king karishyati. He says, even if you try to control nature, you will be unable to, because his detachment is not complete. So all these feelings that we are given, they are also supposed to have their play in our lives. But as you said, that nature itself makes us go beyond nature. That is the beauty of it. I mean, that is the whole point. And the moment we understand that, then we are not stuck at any, lower step. But in the beginning, when we don't realize that, we think, okay, this is the place I want to enjoy, and this is it. But nature will not let us draw the line anywhere in this world. Whatever we want to attach with, identify with, it will go away. So the transitoriness itself is a kind of means for going beyond it. We want to identify with the body, we get old. We want to identify with a person, that person becomes sick or leaves us or dies. We want to identify with wealth, that goes away. So then nothing that we want to attach ourselves to stays. Now the moment we realize that, then there comes the desire to go beyond it. So I say nature plays both parts. It's like same wind. In the small amount, it makes the fire like lamps well lighted. But when there's too much of it, it puts them out. So air is the cause of both fire and putting out a fire. So we have to remember that and keep those things in mind.
Good. Anindra? Anindya, what is your... Yeah.
I think what Mitali just said, it's a very good explanation of the fact that it's the whole thing that nature plays. He very nicely explained the whole thing, I think.
Nature plays, no doubt, but we become tools in the hands of nature. So we get lost. When we become slaves of nature, then that means we are totally bound by nature. That is why the practice of discrimination is prescribed. Sri Ramakrishna says, if you practice discrimination, then every moment you are constantly telling yourself that you are not the slave of the nature, but you are the master of the nature. You are not the slave of the senses, but you are the master of the senses. So, you have to establish your mastership over your senses. For some reason, we have lost control over it. All the functions and actions of our senses have become involuntary. They don't ask your permission. They go on doing things. Sometimes you don't like it, but you are pushed to do that. So that means they have become involuntary, just as our breathing. It has become involuntary. Pranayama means, if I want, I will breathe. Controlling the prana. That means you are controlling the nature. So, what Sri Ramakrishna tells, if you hold on to the position of witness, you witness, look the things as if you are looking from outside. See everything from that perspective. Then you will see how nature doesn't bind you anymore. So, you have to get rid of attachment by cutting its roots by the sword of detachment. Through detachment, you must cut off attachment. It's all very easy for me to talk. But what a joy it is, at least even to feel that aspect of non-attachment. In non-attachment, there is no selfishness. Anything that you do selfless, it comes under category of non-attachment. It is classified as non-attachment. Selfless must be total. That means you must not assert your ego or your all inherent propensities to come and play upon and make you dance. You should not dance to the tune of your propensities. You must struggle. You know they are giving problem. You know that storm is coming. If you know the storm is coming, you can take steps to prevent it. So like that, so many mental reactions in so many ways, they come up and show up and they push you, they just force you to do certain things, but in spite of that, you have to. You must know, oh, it's all happening on account of some propensities, inherent propensities. So I have to be careful, more careful. If you have that stand, then they lose their intensity. And slowly that die out. But if you act upon immediately, then that means you become victim of your propensities. Anger comes, suddenly you act upon. Why don't you immediately try to do something? You know the anger has come, but you are not giving thoughts. Anger is coming me, it is devouring me. In any moment I may be lost, so I should do something to get over this poison. Immediately you must take step. You must not allow time. When the poison rises, after some time you can't undo. You can't get out of the poisonous effect. In initial stage it's possible. Suppose the cobra bites, immediately if you tie the limb, part of the limb which it has bitten, if you tighten it with a cloth or something so the poison will not spread, the man can be saved. But if the poison is already spread, then even injection will not help. Even shots will not help. Just like that. We allow the nature to play upon. Sometimes we do it intentionally because it's joyful. Because sometimes it gives a joy, a kind of temptation, so to say. Once you are drawn by the temptation, nature is laughing at you. But once you immediately recognize, oh, these are all dangerous, they are coming to just ruin me. If you just have that attitude, then they just run away. So, that's also true. Guna guneshu vartanta. The gunas act upon the gunas. It's all the interaction of gunas, that's true. But for the gunas to act upon, it requires a medium. It cannot act by itself. Because you are allowing it to act, it is acting. You are allowing yourself. So that part is there. So, how far you are able to regulate your mode of thinking and practices, to that extent you will be able to free yourself from the clutches of this attachment and so on. If you have to realize God, you have to be free from any kind of attachment. Attachment to the world means attachment to this body, attachment to this mind. I am not attached to anything. So you must keep on telling that constantly in your mind. I am free from attachment, I am free from attachment. And you must try to do things in such a way that you are trying to put that into practice. Like that. It's a constant struggle. But generally what happens, in the beginning we take spiritual practice very seriously. With all great inspiration we start. After some time, in the name of spirituality, we lose our all fine qualities and we become worse than the worldly people. Worse. Worldly people are far better than the so-called spiritual people. Because when the spiritual people fell victims to the propensities, it's worst. So one has to be careful. The more spiritual you are, the more careful you must be. That's the point. Every time you are trying to control the nature, nature is also trying to control you. If you are conquering one type of temptation, it gives you another type of temptation. So, it goes on like that. But you have to face everything calmly. Calmness is required. If you lose your calmness, then how can you live? So to think of God, to meditate on Him, how important it is to maintain certain level of calmness in the mind. That's why you must not be too hectic, you must not be too dull. You must be moderate. Then you will be able to maintain equanimity. Then you will be able to maintain certain kind of calmness in the mind, by which you will be able to think of God in a proper way, and you will be able to apply discrimination in the right way. That's how I feel.